So in the case of each phases, pag nandun kayo sa gap phases po natin, your G1, your G2 in particular na phases, those are your preparatory stages. What do I mean by preparatory stages? Usually, preparation po yan para doon sa major phases na meron, which is your S and your M phase. So for G1 phase nyo po, that is a preparatory stage or phase for your S phase, which is your DNA synthesis. So basically, S phase now will have your DNA synthesis right there. So sa G1, kailangan meron po tayong maraming nutrients. So that is that preparation na ginagawa sa G1 phase. You take in a lot of nutrients in order for you to prepare for your S phase, which is your DNA synthesis. Now, after your DNA synthesis, nagkakaroon tayo ng G2 phase or yung GAP2 phase natin. So the GAP2 phase naman is basically the preparatory stage for your M phase. So, ang M phase from the term itself, from the letter itself, letter M, that is mitosis. So, when we are talking about mitosis, we are talking about your cell division. So, yung cell division na yun na mismo yung proliferation ng inyong cells. Yun nga lang, please do take note. So, i-drawing natin. Pasensya na lang po ang drawing at wala yung pen ko as of the moment. So right here, for example, 3, 4, 5. Ano ba? Yan yung 5 phases nyo. So let's just say this is G1 right here. This is S, this is 2, this is M, and this is your G0 phase. Ang usual take-in natin mga anak, pagdating po sa inyong M phase, right here, you have 2 subcells here. One of your subcells will go back to this very cell cycle. Ibig sabihin, balik po siya dun sa pinakauna ng cell cycle nyo, magpe-prepare ulit siya, magkakaroon tayo ng synthesis, magkakaroon ng division, dadami ng danami. So basically, sila po yung nagpo-proliferate na cells. There are cells naman which in case does not go back to your cell cycle. Where am I? Yan. This one here. Yan. So, pupunta po sila sa G0 phase. So, yung G0 phase natin is basically the outside na ng ating cell cycle. What do I mean by that? Lalabas po doon, for example, sa inyong blood supply or blood vessel, yung inyong cell, and they become dormant. Basically, they become inactive, they become non-proliferating. So, hindi po sila dumadami. So, that is the normal thing naman. It's actually pretty much normal naman for your cell cycle. So, in terms of that, pwede po ba silang ma-reactivate? Yes. Ang G0 phase cells po natin can be reactivated. They can go back to your cell cycle. So if we are to correlate that with cancer, di ba, meron po tayong cancers we're in, sinasabing cancer-free na si pasyente, right? But in a few years or in a few futuristic time, biglang bumalik yung cancer ng pasyente natin. Biglang nag-reoccur yung kanyang cancer. Most likely, the rationale behind that is because of your dormant cells. Kasi for example, if this is your blood vessel right here, ang usual casing po natin, halimbawa, ito yung mga cells nyo. Let's just say na jump pack sila dyan. Naka-jump pack sila. So if this is jump pack, basically, yung blood supply nyo ay mas konti na. Limited na yung blood supply kasi marami nang gumagamit. So a few of them goes out, ayan, nagiging dormant sila dyan para silang nai-store sa labas. Ngayon, in the moment that there are no more, or meron tayong space, for example, right here, nagkaganyan, from the outside, pumunta sa loob at nagkaroon ng espasyo. Meron na ulit na blood supply. So, babalik po yung cells doon, magre-reactivate sila, babalik sila sa cell cycle. It is the same principle when it comes to your cancer cells. Your cancer cells can lay dormant, magpupunta po sila ng G0 phase, and pag wala na po ulit or mayroon na silang space within your blood vessel to get that blood supply that they needed to proliferate, pupunta sila doon, dadami ulit, bumabalik si cancer. So, ganun po ang nangyayari sa reoccurring tumors natin pagdating sa mga reoccurring cancer patients. So, that may be. So, for some talaga, hindi din masasabing agad-agad na talagang totally cancer-free for some. Pero, it does not really, depende naman yan sa situation doon sa naging treatment ni pasyente. So, that can actually happen. So basically, the thing about here that we are always talking about now is the importance of your blood supply. So doon nga pumapasok yung earlier na term natin, which is your angiogenesis. Now, in terms of the treatments under your cancer, basically one of the well-known treatments is of course your chemotherapy. So in chemotherapy, for example, in leukemia, it is utilized as a cure. And usually, consolidation therapy sila. So meron po kayong exponential hypothesis right there, which they actually call as your three-log kill hypothesis. Again, it's your three-log kill hypothesis. Ito pong three-log kill hypothesis na ito mga anak, minsan lumalabas siya sa board exam, ano? Yan yung hypothesis involving your chemotherapy as to why there are a certain number of sessions or therapies under this type of treatment. So pagdating po mismo sa ating cancer, pertaining to cancer, there are three usual localized type of treatment. So you have your surgery, your radiotherapy, and your chemotherapy. So yun yung mga usual po nating localized type of treatments for your cancer. And then again, chemotherapy is basically the most or one of the most well-known pagdating dyan. So paano po ba ang nangyayari sa ating chemotherapy regimen? So sa inyong chemotherapy regimen, there is this inhibition or of course, yung killing po natin ng inyong cancer cells. Ang kanyang ang plot twist niya nga lang of course is that there should also be this survival or the saving of your normal cells. Kailangan meron pong unharmed na normal cells at ma-recuperate po natin yung ating normal cells para dumami ulit yung inyong normal cells. Kasi of course, if both cancer cells and normal cells ay parehas pong lalagapak, malamang sa malamang mamamatay lang din yung pasyente with the treatment. That's why in chemotherapy, always remember, your regimen is always up to 5 to 6 cycles lang tayo. Yan po, ano, ang cycle nyo po or sessions in chemotherapy is usually 5 to 6. Another thing about that is it ay ginagamit po or binibigyan po siya ng interval. Usually, the interval here is 3 to 4 weeks. Basically, chemotherapy is being given intermittently. So, what is the rationale behind as to why kailangan po may interval yung ating chemotherapy? Of course, number one is para makarecover po ang ating normal cell. Sabi nga natin, your chemotherapy must inhibit or kill your cancer cell while also letting your normal cells be unharmed. But in such case, of course, hindi naman natin talagang maiaalis yung part na pati po ang normal cell pagdating kay chemotherapy ay ma-harm. Diba? So what we can do is to let your normal cells recover. You need to let them recuperate para dumami din po yung inyong normal cells or the normal cells of the patient. So in such case, pag dumadami ang normal cells ng patient, of course, dadami din yung cancer cells kasi meron nga kayong interval. Kaya ang nangyayari, nagiging 3-log kill hypothesis tayo dahil every time, halimbawa, meron kayong cascading of 1,000 ng cancer cell. So natanggal nyo yung doon sa 1,000 ang tira, 800 na lang. Hayaan yung mag-recuperate ng konti, dumami ng 50. So saka kayo after nun, magbabawas na naman ulit ng 200. Kaya na naman titira, nasa 650 na naman titira. So ganun ang nangyayari doon sa exponential 3-log kill. So hindi isang diretso or isang direct approach na agad yung pagpatay doon sa cancer cells because you are trying to check in as well the number of your normal cells. Another, kung bakit kailangan may interval tayo is because of your G0 phase cells. Why? Again, there are dormant cells also, pati yung cancer cells po natin ay pwedeng maging dormant. So, magiging useless lang din kung ang dormant cells nyo ay saka pa lang magre-reactivate after the treatment. So, in the case of your interval, syempre, mas marami na ang blood supply kasi mas maraming na walang cell. Yung mga dormant cells nyo, lalabas na yan. Mag-a-activate na sila. So, the possible cancer cells that are lying dormant will also activate. So, on your next session, yung nag-reactivate na cancer cells ay pwede nyo nang mapatay. So, ganun ang importansya ng ating interval in terms of your chemotherapy regimen. And another thing is that you have to remember that chemotherapy is a multi-drug use treatment. Hindi po tayo usual nagsisingular drug dito. The rationale is that most likely you are looking out for the effectivity. Yan naman ang usual natin, di ba? Pag nagmo-multi-drug treatment kayo, effectivity. Another is, of course, pagdating sa tolerance. Madali din kasi magkaroon ng tolerance ang ating mga cells pagdating sa mga drugs, pag paulit-ulit na lang. You also have to avoid your resistance, of course. And you have to minimize as well your toxicities. Kasi pretty much most of your cancer drugs are narrow therapeutic index drugs. So yun ang meron tayo sa casing ng inyong chemotherapy. And another thing, please do remember, the time that you have to stop your chemotherapy is usually pag less than 0.05% na po ang yung reduction nyo ng cancer cell. Still concerning yun doon sa 6 sessions, kaya usual maximum is 6 sessions po ang inyong chemotherapy. So, yun ang meron tayo sa chemotherapy regimen. So, ayan na yung combination therapy. Nabanggit ko na yan regarding your multi-drug use regarding chemotherapy. That 4 right there. So, you also have here, and so, in the different phases na nabanggit ko earlier, you have your G1, your S, your G2, and your M phase. So there are particular group of drugs which is correlated or yun ang pinaka-main target nila. So for example, under your G1 phase right here, so ayun yung mga probable drugs that we can use, your asparaginase, prednisone. For S, it's usually your anti-metabolites. For M phase, usually this Vinca and taxanes are utilized as anti-mitotics. So, mitotic spindle ang kanilang main MOA. So, meron ding part kung saan meron kayong G1 phase to S phase, medyo mas malawak yung effectivity nila, or your G2 phase to M phase. In the usual case, pag G1 phase to S phase, this is usually your, eto dito, eto po side. Pagdating sa inyong G2 to M phase, that is usually your bleomycin. Huwag kakalimutan yun. So, S and then M. G1 to S, ito po side. G2 to M, that is bleomycin. In particular, usual yun yung ginagamit. You can also have your phase non-specific. Ayan na yung mga phase non-specific natin dito sa baba. This one right here na mga example. So basically, mas malawak po, mas broad ang spectrum nila ng effectivity unlike your specific. Yun nga lang, the broader the spectrum of activity is, the more toxic the drug can be. Yun lang ang main problems natin with that. So preferably, for some, gusto nila yung non-specific para mas marami nga rin ang mapatay na cancer cells. Now, for the different classes or groups of your anti-neoplastics. So, hindi na po ako masyadong naglagay ng mga structures here, but for a few na medyo kilala na type of drugs, I do suggest that you take in or check out niyo po kung ano yung structure ng mga yun. So, under alkylating, you have your nitrogen mustards, for example, right there. So, andyan yung mga meclorethamine, so yung chlorambucil, your cyclophosphamide and phosphamide and mefalap. So the adverse effect are already as follows. Very well known na tinatanong sa board exam yung adverse effect pagdating dito sa part na to. Let's put a highlight on it. Ayan, yung mga yan. Especially this hemorrhagic cystitis, ito po yung kanyang DOC right here, or yung antidote niya. Your acrolein or your mesna. So, for germ cells as well, neurotoxicity for ifosfamide, and of course, secondary malignancies. So, that is one thing that's a bit ironic as well in terms of your cancer agent, is that they can also cause malignancies as well. Para lang din po siya pagdating sa inyong cardiovascular drugs. Kasi yung cardiovascular drugs natin, they are utilized for the heart, pero ang usual side effects nila and adverse effects is still correlating sa puso. So parang ganun din ang nangyayari pagdating sa ibang anti-neoplastic agents na meron tayo. You also have here, ayan, your ethylamines, methylmelamines, alkyl sulfonates, nitrourases, and your triazides. So yung mga may pulmonary toxicity dyan, please do take note of that as well. For others, your platinum coordination complex, ito yung isa sa mga pinakakilalang ginagamit. Cisplatin and carboplatin. Another thing about it, it's usually being differentiated, especially in the board exam. So for example, yung dose-limiting adverse effect niya. So nephrotoxicity for cisplatin, myelosuppression for your carboplatin. So you also have your substituted your ureas and your other drugs. So, pakitake note na po yung nephrotox, myelosuppression, pagdating kay cispla, and your carboplatin. And of course, again and again, pagdating po sa structure nyo, though hindi naman totally walang-wala ang structure ha, meron pa rin po tayong structure kahit papano, pero yun nga, doon lang sa mga at most mga well-known drugs na meron tayo for this topic. So you also have your anti-metabolites. It can be your purine analogs. Pwede din po yung mga folic acids natin and pyrimidine analogs as follows. So yung methotrexate natin, my dears, ito po ay ginagamit din. Very well known ito for rheumatic sa arthritis, for RAs. So rheumatic din po ang inyong methotrexate. It's actually one of the gold standards there as well. So, ayan na yung pinaka-MOA. So, kung nagkaroon po tayo ng possibly toxicity with this folic acid analog methotrexate, you can utilize your antidote folinic acid or your leucovorin. So, yun yung naka-blue right there. So, ito yung pinaka-antidote niya. So for others, mga pyrimidine analogs such as your 5-FU, which is kasama earlier for breast cancer. So meron pa kayong iba dyan, gemcitabine, mga cytarabine, and so on. So kailangan lang natin i-check out kung ano ang meron for that. And please do take note kung saan po nanggaling si percaptorine, which is from your thiouric acid. So for antibiotics, we also have a group of antibiotics utilized for cancer. As you have tetracyclines. So makikita na rin kung saan nanggaling na yung bacterial source ng ating antibiotics right there. So you have your doxorubicin, yung doxorubicin, that is actually one of the most famous there. They're usually cardiotoxic. And please do take note the 4 epimer of your doxorubicin, which is your epirubicin. So kung matatandaan pa, when we are talking about epimers, we are talking about your stereoisomerism. So in the case of your stereoisomerism, sa mga isomers po natin, so pinagkaiba lang po nila ay nasa carbon 4. Similarly lang ang kanilang structure, carbon 4 lang nagkaroon ng pagkakaiba sa position. So that is that 4 epimer of your doxorubicin. So you also have the following as well. Ayan, anthracindiones and your other agents. Very clear naman na kung anong kakabisaduhin nyo sa part na yan, di ba? So again, please be familiar with the sources ng ating drugs. So for Bleo is verticulus, for dactinomycin, mga streptomyces species. Plicamycin is Explicatus, mitomycin for Esceosprithosus. So those are just a few. So for vinca alkaloids, kayo ay nag-PCOG, di ba? So if you could still remember your alkaloids, so nitrogen compounds found on or naturally found on your plants, which are usually volatile, aromatic in nature. Diba? Yun ang mga alkaloids nyo. So in the usual sense, even on your alkaloids, you have there na ginagamit natin for cancer. Usually, from your vinca-rosea, so you have their vinblastine, your vincristine. So sila yung mga nagpe-prevent ng formation ng mitotic spindle. Kaya nga sila mga anti-mitotics. So under your M phase specific anti-neoplastics. You also have your inhibition of your topoisomerase 1 and 2. So, andyan na yung pinaka-main examples natin from your phodophyllatoxins and your camptothecins. So, yan na yung mga examples dyan. Pakitake note na lang po ang main adverse effect under your phodophyllatoxins, which is your myelosuppression. You also have your taxanes, very well known si taxane, paclitaxel, diba? Doon din yung pagdating kay PCOG, plant derivative din ang pinagkunan yan. So, paki-check out po kung kaninong or what is the scientific name of the plant, diba? Where you can actually get your paclitaxel. So, taxol being the main metabolite utilized there. So, you have there your plant alkaloids. So for hormones po, we also have hormone-related anti-cancer agent. So in the usual sense, meron kayong mga hormone responsive, usually for palliative care. So pag after nilang ginamit ito, bumabalik na rin sa dati yung hormonal number or hormone number doon sa patient. Pero din namang hormone dependent, so talagang nire-remove yung pinaka-hormone na nagkakos ng tumor. Meron din kayong for androgens, anti-androgens, and also anti-estrogens. So please do take note na lang yung mga nandyan, such as this surgery related to your advanced prostate cancer, which is your ariotomy. Meron din kayong breast cancer tamoxifen. Tamoxifen actually, guys, is the first line drug po natin, anti-neoplastic, for your ER positive or your estrogen receptor related po na breast cancer. Marami kasi tayong klase ng breast cancer, ano? But it's one of the first line under ER breast cancer. So, yung ano naman dyan sa prostate cancer and under anti-androgens, that is flutamide or nilutamide, usually given naman yan with your gosarline and your leuroprolide. Usually, pag meron silang mga combined, that is to neutralize the possible mga adverse effect nila. So, you have there a few. So, ano pang meron pagdating sa hormonal? Ang hormonal po natin na anti-neoplastics is usually concerned into 3 different types of cancer. which is basically your tawag dito. One of them is, ayun, yung nabanggit ko earlier, yung sa inyong ER na breast cancer. The other one is for prostate cancer. And the last one is actually for your adrenocortical cancer. So ano po ba muna yung meron sa adrenocortical? Kasi meron na tayong idea pagdating sa breast cancer and prostate cancer. If we are talking about adrenocortical cancers, ito po yung mga cancers in the blood or sa mga lymphocytes po natin, sa mga lymphatic system. So basically on your WC, white blood cells and so on, mga lymphatic system, immune system po natin na types of cancer. You can utilize hormone-related anti-neoplastics there. Another is yun nga yung nabanggit ko, ER positive breast cancer. So ito po yung estrogen receptor related na breast cancer wherein tamoxifen is basically its first line. Another is that pagdating po sa MOA ng tamoxifen kasi, tamoxifen is usually utilized as a partial ER agonist. So partial estrogen receptor agonist po kasi ang inyong tamoxifen. So another is na ginagamit natin pagdating sa iyong ER breast cancer is actually the next one right here. Ayan, your aromatase inhibitors. So yung mga aromatase inhibitors naman natin, from the term itself, aromatase. So aromatase is actually an enzyme. So yung enzyme aromatase po natin, it actually converts your term na i-type na lang natin for the spelling. Androstenedione. Ayan, androstenedione. So this androstenedione is being converted by your aromatase into your estrogen. Ano bang problema sa breast cancer? Mataas po ang estrogen levels. Kaya para bumaba ang estrogen, tanggalin natin yung enzyme na pwedeng mag-convert sa compound na yan into your estrogen. So yun ang ginagawa ng inyong mga aromatase inhibitors. So for the prostate cancer naman, so ang usual naman natin sa prostate cancer mga anak ay mataas ang testosterone level. So kung mataas ang testosterone level, of course, you have to minimize or reduce the testosterone level that the patient has. And in the usual case nito, we are talking about the active compound of your testosterone, which is basically your dihydrotestosterone. Yun po yung active component ng testosterone natin, ano? Dihydrotestosterone. So from testosterone, i-convert siya to dihydrotestosterone. So if ang ginagamit natin is the enzyme inhibitor itself, that would be your 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. Again, that would be your 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. Yun po ang kailangan nating i-inhibit na enzyme if we want to reduce or minimize the amount of active testosterone. So anong well-known nating drug dyan? Yung finasteride natin. Finasteride. So finasteride is a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. So tininhibit niya yung pinaka-enzyme na yun para bumaba yung active testosterone. Meron din naman tayo ng androgen receptor blockers. Diretso na pong androgen ang pinaka-iaano natin, iba-block nyo. So usually yun na yung flutamide natin, ano, yung mga may tamide sa dulo. So other drugs na pwedeng responsible for that, you also have your corticosteroids as you can see right here. Pero usual kasi ang mga corticosteroids, more on mga anti-inflam din sila. Your estrogen or your nitrogen mustard drugs. You also have your mismo mga hormonal drugs po ito. Your GnRH and your LHRH. luteinizing, and then I'm not sure if it's growth hormone yung GN. And then you also have your progestins right there. So nakaano naman na kung para sa type of cancer. And of course, a few kung halimbawa meron siyang mga notable na adverse effect. You also have your L-asparaginase. So if you could remember doon sa bilog, diba? Sa G1 phase, pwede pong gamitin yung asparaginase. So it's actually a phase-specific type of drug. So the main source of this one is from your E. coli. So ayan yung MOA. It degrades your asparagine. So ang indication nito ay ginagamitan with the use of your vincristine and your prednisone for your childhood ALL cancer. Now, ayun po ang meron tayo sa inyong anti-neoplastics. So, just to give you more information about anti-neoplastics, kasi baka magkaroon kayo ng topic regarding what you call your targeted therapy. Sa anti-neoplastics mga anak, meron kayong tinatawag na targeted, sorry for the wrong spelling. Targeted therapy. This targeted therapy usually utilizes your monoclonal antibodies, yung tinatawag po nating MAB, at yung isa naman is yung NIB. So yung mga MABs natin, again, shortcut po nun is monoclonal antibodies. Usually, ito yung may mga end or mga suffixes sa pangalan na UMAB, pwedeng UMAB, pwedeng MUMAB, meron din yung ZUMAB, meron din yung CIMAB. So ano pong pinagkaiba-iba na yan? Depende po yan sa source no monoclonal antibody. Pag murine MAB ang pinag-uusapan natin, that is UMAB yung dulo. Again po ano, pag murine MAB or monoclonal antibody, that is UMAB ang kanyang suffix. Pag human MAB, that is MUMAB naman ang kanyang suffix. So MUMAB is human MAB. Pag humanized, with letter Z, humanized MAB, that is ZUMAB naman ang ending ng kanilang pangalan ng gamot. Pag CIMAB naman, this is mixture. So, kaya nga siya X. Ano po yung pinagmimix nila dyan? That is your murine MAB and your humanized MAB. Again po, it's your murine MAB and your, excuse me, humanized MAB. Ang ginagamit nila for the combination or the mixture of your CMABs. So, anong mga well-known dyan? For example, your Sofoximab. Ayun yung mga well-known drugs natin under your MAB. Pagdating naman kay NIB, yung NIB earlier, yun din yung ending niya naman din talaga. For example, yung sunitinib. Ayan. Tapos, gefitinib. So, sumitinib and gefitinib, they are both under ng NIBs. And usually, they are involving your tyrosine kinase. So, in the production sa inyong tyrosine kinase, mayroon kasing involvement doon, yung sa cell division. Kaya sa DNA synthesis po natin, kaya dumadami yung cell. So, doon ang particular nilang tina-target. Yun nga lang, hindi ko na masyadong i-explain ng kung ano-ano pa kasi marami pa sila doon. Basta in particular, this is VEGF, yung tina-target ng sunitinib. And then your EGF lang ang tina-target ng inyong gefitinib. So, yun lang naman ang meron tayo doon. I'll just let Picol give you more information regarding those compounds already. So, additional information na lang po yun pagdating sa inyong anti-neoplastics. Now, in terms of the SAR of selected drugs, this is especially in the case na possibly or madalas po talaga lumalabas sa board exam na mga SAR. So, ito ay alam nyo na. So from previous pa ito, midterms pa po ito, your adrenergic agents. So those are just a few examples already. Ayan, and of course, ito na yung pinaka-main SAR nila and their specific general structure. Ito ay naka-zoom in lang doon sa SAR. Kung ayaw nyo naman zoom in, pwedeng diretso yung i-zoom in yung nandun sa unahan. Just a few other examples. As you can see, naka-encircle na, no? Nakaayos na kung ano yung pagkakaiba-iba nila in terms of structures. You just need to be familiarized kung paano siya or paano nyo siya makikita. You also have there, ayan, still a few. Ito ulit, pagdating doon sa inyong SAR, puro SAR na po yan. Cholinergic, similarly, from the previous term pa ito. Ayan. And we go now to your CNS stimulant. So, doon na tayo sa mismong CNS part natin. So, in the case of your CNS stimulants, first we have your group methylxanthines. Basically, they are utilized to block your adenosine receptors. And the more methyl substitutions there is, the more stimulating the effect of the compound. So, for example, dyan, si caffeine, mas marami po siyang methyl substitutions. If I remember correctly, there are about 3 methyl substitutions of caffeine on its compound. So caffeine, theophylline, and theobromine are examples under your CNS stimulants. So first off with your caffeine, of course, sa mga coffee addicts po dyan. So yan po ay isang cortical and medullary stimulant. So it has a vasoconstrictive properties. Kaya ang usual nating side effects is nagkakaroon kayo ng restlessness, hindi mapakali, anxiety, and tremulousness. So nagkakaroon ng mga tremors, nanginginig-nginig. And in higher doses, pwede po possible na magkaroon ng convulsion. So hinay-hinay din sa kape, baka kunin ni Lord bigla, kakakape. So yun ang ano natin sa caffeine nyo ha. You also have your theophylline, which is also a cortical and medullary stimulant. So mas narrow po ang therapeutic index nito. That's why it has a more life-threatening seizures ang pwede niyang ibigay na side effects. It's more of adverse na actually yung pagdating sa theophylline in terms of its seizures. And also you have your theobromine sa mga cacao, di ba? So they are lesser stimulatory effect or they have lesser stimulatory effect. And because of that, mas mababa kasi ang kanilang distribution sa brain. So basically, the more it can be distributed on the brain, the more effect there is for this or for these types of compounds. So, hindi ko na nailagay yung pinaka-main structures nila. They have a particular positions there kung saan doon lang sila nagkaiba-iba. It's actually on the, the locants lang, nagkakaroon ng pagkakaiba-iba kung to which position they have their metal substituents. So, please check them out. The difference between the structures of your caffeine, your theophylline, and your theobromine. Kasi yung pinaka-chemical name po nila, makikita nyo na agad doon. Kitang-kita na agad doon sa structure kung bakit siya naging ganon. So we also have here, ayan, your central sympathomimetic agents. So basically, they contain your beta-phenethylamine. So mas resistant po sila sa metabolism kasi mas non-polar sila. So if we're talking about non-polarity, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito ay lipophilicity. So more fat-soluble ang ganitong klase ng drugs. So basically, mas madali din po silang mag-cross sa inyong blood-brain barrier. And dahil dyan, they are hydrophobic. So mas matagal talaga silang na metabolize. So usually, in terms of its effect, it can actually increase your wakefulness. So also then, pwede din siyang anorexia. But in terms of sa substitution nila, if you are to put hydroxylation, magano kayo ng hydroxylation dyan, bumababa yung activity dahil mas mababa na yung penetration niya sa blood-brain barrier. Kasi if we're talking about hydroxylation, magdadagdag kayo ng OH. OH is a polar group. Mas magiging water-soluble yung compound natin, wherein hindi na siya papasok sa requirements ng inyong blood-brain barrier na dapat lipophilic yung inyong compound. Kaya bababa ang activity if you're going to undergo hydroxylation. Pag halogenation, in such cases, you are to put up a halogen. So, bumababa ang CNS stimulation. Yun nga lang, pwedeng tumaas po yung 5-HT, yung serotogenic activity naman natin. You also have your addition of methoxy or your methylene dioxy. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng dopamine 2 interaction instead. So, those are just a few things in terms of the substitutions that we can have according to your central sympathomimetic agents. We also have here, of course, your antidepressants. So, ang antidepressants po natin in particular, so we have the main prototype actually pagdating sa kanyang structure. Ang pinagkukunan nila is your desipramine. Ayan, that is the spelling of your desipramine. Ang itsura niya actually is something like this. So, disclaimer po, pasensya na ulit sa magiging drawing. Basta meron kayong aromatic compound sa magkabilang dulo. There should be 7 with an N and another aromatic here. If you want, you can just search it up already. You have your means to do so. Tapos pagdating dito, meron po tayo one, two, three. N and then C. So this is the cypramine. So ito yung pinaka main prototype natin, actually yung basis natin pagdating sa inyong mga antidepressants. So the cypramine is actually part of your secondary amines under your antidepressants. So in such case, if there is a dimethyl amino compound, ito yung dimethyl amino compound na yun. Let's put up a highlight. Dimethyl amino compound right here. Nag-i-increase ang ating activity with your 5-HT serotonin. So, nagkakaroon ka ng anticholinergic effects. So, they are extremely lipophilic. Pag nagiging monomethyl na lang yan, so isang carbon ang nakapagitna dyan, is usually increased naman pagdating sa norepinephrine. So, again, there are two major parang generations or two types basically under your antidepressants. You have your secondary and your tertiary amines. So, under secondary amines, isa na po dyan si desipramine right there. Ano pa ang usual natin dyan? Yung mga terms na nag-e-end po sa tryptyline ang dulo. Ito ang spelling. Ayan. So, pag ganyan po ang suffix, it's usually under your secondary amines. For example, natriptyline, protryptyline. So, yun yung mga examples natin under secondary amines. Pero we have two exemption to the rule pagdating sa kanyang suffix, which is, ayan, yung desipramine, yung nauna, and another is your amoxapine. So, amoxapine, hindi naman tryptyline yung dulo niya, pero still, it is part of your secondary amines. Another is your tertiary amines naman, which in this case, ito naman po yung mga pramine, yung dulo. So, yung tertiary amines nyo, yun yung mga pramine, yung dulo. Yung mga well-known natin, mga imipramine, mga clomipramine. So, those are just a few. But of course, there is always an exemption to the rule. Meron tayong isang tryptyline under your tertiary amine. That is your amitriptyline. Again, your amitriptyline is an exemption to the rule kasi nandun siya sa tertiary amine instead of your secondary amines. Another exemption doon sa suffixes natin is also your doxepin. So, ayun po yung exemption natin. Ano, for tertiary amines, you have your amitriptyline and your doxepin. So, basta ang dulo nila, puro sila pramines. So, that is for your antidepressant drugs. So, next, we go to your anticonvulsants. So, in your anticonvulsants, very well known, isa dyan is your benzodiazepines. So, in your benzodiazepines, as you can see, ito na po yung main structure niya. Nakalagay na din yung bilang-bilang. Please just to take note, in this part right here, yung 1 natin, yung N1 carbon, pwede tayo actually maglagay dito ng alkyl group. So, pwedeng magkaroon ng substitution right here. That's why, as you can see in this part, N1 must have an R group for your optimal activity. Another important one is your C double bond O, which is right here. Ayan, for your activity as well. There can also be substitution at your position 3. So, in such cases doon, if you were to substitute here, ito yung position 3 here, pwedeng isang polar group, paglagay ka ng OH halimbawa, or a non-polar group, ang ilalagay nyo doon. So, as long as you are to put up a polar group, syempre, bababa ang duration of action kasi that is polar OH more water soluble. Mas mabilis pong ma-metabolize yung ating drug. So, pag mas mabilis ma-metabolize ang drug, mas mabilis lang din po siyang e-exit sa katawan. Kaya mas mababa ang duration of action, which is different if you are to put a non-polar OH group. So, in such cases, this is lipophilic. Mas matagal siya, mas gusto yon in terms of absorption, mas lalo na sa brain. So, basically, ayan, tumataas ang duration of action. So, that's the main rationale behind pagdating dyan. So, ang ano lang natin dito, alam nyo kung paano laruin yung characteristic kung ano ang pinag-uusapan natin. So, kung OH yun, anong pwedeng mangyari pag itong ina-add? Pag nag-add ka naman ng mga methyl groups na more like mga lipophilic and so, ano naman ang pwedeng mangyari? So, that is the case for the SARS that we have. And for your position 7, right here, ayan, this one here. So, pwede po kayong maglagay ng electron withdrawing groups. That is your EWG. So, your electron withdrawing groups are usually the ones or mga types of compounds or elements which can actually pull electrons. So, in the case of that, kung kaya po nating i-pull yung mga electrons natin, tumataas ang electron, tumataas ang activity, mas nagiging lipophilic, mas nagiging potent yung ating drug. So, yun ang kayang gawin ng inyong EWG. Ano pang kailangan nating i-take note? So, in such case, ayun nga, nabigay na yung NR natin. Ito yung naunang NR na yan. Okay na rin yung sa C double bond O. Ang kailangan din nating tignan is your fuse string right here. Change the color. Ayan, yung fuse string nyo po na yan. Yung fuse string natin mga anak, you can have actually a fused triazole. Again, pwedeng fused triazole po yan or a fused imidazole ring. Again, it can be a fused triazole or a fused imidazole ring. Pag triazole ang naka-fuse, usually, ang mga drugs po na may fused na triazole is your triazolam, alprazolam. Ayan. So, nakalagay na po sa chat box. These are the drugs with a fused triazole ring. In terms of imidazole, kung imidazole naman ang meron, ito yung kilalang midazolam. So, midazolam has a fused imidazole ring. Saan nyo po usually makikita supposedly yung fusion yan? Nasa position 1 and 2. So, ang pagkakaroon po ng fused na rings such as your triazole and imidazole can give you a higher potency. So again, pag higher ang potency, mas lipophilic, mas mataas ang activity, and so on and so forth. So yun ang nagagawa ng mga fused rings na yun. Another is pagdating dito. Let's change again. This one right here, yung bilog na yan, yung phenyl ring natin na yan, that is what you call your 5-phenyl ring. Kasi nasa 5 carbon siya as an alkyl group. So in this 5-phenyl ring, you can actually put a substitution there. Pero, please do take note, hindi nyo pwedeng tanggalin mismo yung ring. Yung phenyl ring na yan, that is actually essential. Ang gagawin lang natin, mag-a-add lang kayo ng substitute groups sa mismong phenyl ring. So in such case, you can actually add here at your 2' position. Pwedeng magkasabay dito sa 2' and your 6' right here. Or pwedeng nag-iisa lang dito sa may 4. So as you can see, dapat may gap po tayo, may spacing for the stabilization of your compound. So if you are to substitute at your 2' position or your 2', 6' position, usually, ang nilalagay nyo dyan, ito lang din. EWG. So, pag naglagay po kayo ng electron withdrawing group again, magpo-pull ng electron, dadami yung electron, tataas ang activity, mas magiging lipophilic, mas tumataas ang potency. In the case of your 4' naman, so sa 4' baliktad, bababa ang potency natin. So, if you are to put here a substitution, bababa po ang ating potency. Kasi ang usual kasi nilang nilalagay in this position is an OH group. Yan po, OH po na group ang usual nilang nilalagay dyan. And of course, if you are to put the OH group right there, ang ini-increase mo is the polarity, not the potency. Kaya bumababa ang potency, mas mabilis kasi na metabolize ang ating drug dahil meron na siyang OH group right there. So yun naman ang ginagawa for substitution na yan. So para mas okay naman pagdating sa excretion, drug elimination ng ating drug. So that is the case for OH. Now, always remember, ito po ay sinasama sa board exam. In terms of the MOA of benzodiazepine, benzodiazepine is all about the increase ng frequency ng opening ng inyong chloride channel. Again po, in the increase of the frequency of the opening ng inyong chloride channel, that is the MOA of your benzodiazepine. Pwede rin po tayo magkaroon ng toxicity, overdosing ng benzodiazepines. Our main antidote for that is your flumazenil. Again, your flumazenil, that is the spelling, is the main antidote po natin for your benzodiazepine toxicity. So, anong meron sa itsura ni flumazenil? Si flumazenil po ay kaitsura lang ng benzodiazepine. Yun nga lang, wala ito. You do not have your 5-phenyl ring on your flumazenil. Wala na siya niyan. So in such case, dahil nawala ang inyong 5-phenyl ring, di ba sabi nga natin earlier, your 5-phenyl ring is essential for the activity of your benzodiazepine. So sa case ni flumazenil, dahil nawala yan, naging antagonistic ang kanyang effect. So yun po ang mangyayari, pagtatanggalin natin yung 5-phenyl ring na yan. So nagiging antagonist na po yung effect ng inyong compound, which is in the case of your flumazenil. Now, there are different classifications of your benzodiazepine according to DOA. So guys, kung medyo mabilis, just tell me to slow down. Baka meron kayong hindi na-take in na notes. So pakisabi lang po, you may just raise your hand or just put up a reaction or chat on the chat box. Now again, for the classification, according to the DOA of your benzodiazepine. Meron po kayong apat niyan. Yung apat po na yan, you have there your ultra short, your short, your intermediate, and your long acting. Again po, you have your ultra short, your intermediate, and your long acting. Pagdating sa ultra short, nag-iisa lang naman siya dyan. That is your midazolam. Again po, nag-iisa lang yung ultra short nyo, which is your midazolam. Pagdating sa short acting po natin, andyan po yung short sisters. Sino si short sisters? Yan po si Lot. Si Lot, we have there your Lora, Lormeta, Oxa, Tema, Tria. Again, you have Lora, Lormeta, Oxa, Tema, Tria. So, yung limang magkakapatid na yan, na babae na papangalanan at nickname nila ay Lot, is the 5 short sisters. So, para mabilis na lang, di ba? So, si 5 short sisters, Lot, so sila po ang nasa short acting nating benzodiazepine. So, you also have your intermediates. So, intermediate, si Nea ang nandyan. So, kay Nea naman, you have your Nitra, again, Nitra, Esta, and your Alpra. Again po, that is Nitra, excuse me, Esta, and Alpra. So that is your intermediate na NEA. And for the long-acting, ito po na yung the rest. Basta wala dyan dun sa unang tatlo, NEA, LOT, and your midazolam, the rest of that is already long-acting. And usually, pagdating sa mga long-acting po nating benzodiazepine, they end with the term Zepam. Pwede yun yung suffix nila. Zepam, Zolam, Zepoxide, or Zepate. Again, you have your Zepam, Zolam, Zepoxide, and Zepate with E sa dulo. So, yun ang mga usual suffixes ng inyong mga benzodiazepines. So, that would be it for benzodiazepines. Now, we go to the cousin of your benzodiazepine. So, meron po siyang kamag-anak rito na tinatawag po nating barbiturates. So, your barbiturates, as you can see right there, ayan na yung pinaka-main po niyang general structure. So, in such sense, kung paano natin bibilangin yan, so ayun yung pinakabilang niya. Meron kasing iba, I'm not sure kung baka mag-check out kayo ng mga general structures. There are some, for example, right here, nilalagyan na agad to ng R substitution. Kasi pwede po tayo mag-substitute right here. So, pwede magkaroon ng R group ito. So, R1, R2, R3, usual. So, depending on the case, so basta at least, alam nyo, may R kayo dito na pwedeng ilagay. So, in this entry R groups, alkyl, so here, pwede rin kayo dyan, or either way. Kasi parehas lang naman to, my dears, ano? This is practically symmetrical kung titignan nyo ng mabuti. So, kung ito yung 1 nyo, 3 ito. Kung ito yung 1, ito yung 3. Pwede kayo maglagay ng R group. So, as long as you put an R group right there, any alkyls right there, mas tataas ang lipophilicity, mas mabilis ang onset of action, yun nga lang, mas mababa ang inyong duration. Quicker onset, mas madaling mag-exit. Yan lang meron tayo pagdating sa R group, pagdating sa inyo, and tertiary na substitution. So in the case naman of your O, so you have here O's right there. So you can actually substitute that into S. So this is under your isosteric replacement. Yun ang tawag natin sa process na yun. Your isosteric replacement of your oxygen into a thio will give you a more lipophilic compound. Anong very well-known example under this type of substitution? Your thiopental. So si thiopental po ay nag-undergo ng isosteric substitution. Yun ang kaya nga siya thio, no? Sulfur na po ang meron siya, not oxygen in such case. Another is pagdating dyan sa R1 and R2 at your position 5. So this is position 5 right here, R1 and R2. So please do take note, kaya nakalagay dyan na important for activity is because dito po nagko-confer ang ating tinatawag na sedative hypnotic effect ng inyong barbiturates. So basically, essential yan, hindi pwedeng mawala yung part na yan pagdating sa mga barbiturates natin. So ang usual nating possible na pwedeng ilagay dyan is an alkyl group. So of course, mga methyl, ethyl, and so on. And may case tayo ng isang aromatic ring. So there is a certain barbiturate which has an aromatic ring. In particular, that ring is a phenyl ring. Yun po ay ang ating phenobarbital. So your phenobarbital is actually the only barbiturate with an aromatic ring. Again po, ang aromatic ring niya is a phenyl ring. So that is the case for your R1 and your R2. Another thing na very important pagdating kay barbiturates is its nucleus. So may certain nucleus din po siya, which is your 2,4,6, excuse me, trioxo. Type na lang natin, hydro. Ayan. So the nucleus is your, paki-correct ako, 2,4 siya, na 2,3. 2,4,6 trioxo hexahydropyrimidine. Again, that should be 2,4,6 trioxo hexahydropyrimidine. So please do take note that the oxo right there, di ba may oxo part kayo. Pagdating sa naming yan, yan po ay ating ketone constituent. Again, that is a ketone constituent pagdating sa naming. Kasi kahit i-open nyo yan, laging terminal O ang meron kayo. So, terminal, double bond, O. Ay, hindi pala. Pagitna. Sorry for that. So, kaya siya nagiging trioxo. So, that is the main nucleus of barbiturates. So, in terms of the MOA, so kaya ko po pinapatandaan sa inyo yung MOA ng benzodiazepines earlier ay because of the MOA of your barbiturates. Kasi sila nga po ay magpinsan. So in a way, wherein both of them do act on your chloride channel, sa opening ng inyong chloride channel. Ano lang po ang pinagkaiba? Si barbiturates po, it's more on the increased duration of your opening. So matagal pong naka-open ang pinto ng chloride channel pagdating kay barbiturates. Which is different kay benzodiazepine earlier kasi si benzodiazepine ay frequency naman ang meron. So what do I mean by frequency? Parang sa pagbubukas niyo lang po ng ref yan, dahil malamig ang ref. Bukas, sara, bukas, sara, bukas, sara. So ganun lang ang meron pagdating kay benzodiazepine. Yung isa ay katagalan ng pagbubukas. So talagang open kung open lang siya. Yung isa naman ay pabukas, sara. So it's more of the frequency of the opening of your chloride channel. So that is the main difference pagdating sa MOA po ng barbiturate and your benzodiazepine. And of course, hindi naman magpapahuli sa classification ang inyong barbiturates. Barbiturates also have their DOA classification. So according to DOA, still similar with your benzodiazepine, you have your ultra short, your intermediate, and your long-acting. So according to ultra short or under your ultra short, you have your thiopental. Yan po, thiopental, trianilal, spelling, and also your methohexital. Again, your methohexital. metohexital. Yung sa meto natin, may H yun. Metohexital. So for the short-acting, you have your pentobarbital and your secobarbital. Again, you have your pentobarbital and your secobarbital. S-E-C-O. For intermediate, you have your amobarbital. Again, you have your amobarbital and your butarbital. Butarbital. Spelling, butarbital. So that is all under intermediate, amo and butarbital. For the long-acting ones, usual natin dyan, your phenobarbital, sa mga well-known yan, your mephobarbital, and your metarbital. Mepho, lagyan nyo lang ng barbital sa dulo. Yung isa naman, meta, tapos bital lang sa metarbital. May R, tapos bital lang sa dulo. Ano usual pong suffixes nila pagdating kay barbiturates? It's either barbital, isang buong barbital na nakalagay, or yung AL lang sa dulo. So, yun ang mga usual suffixes under your barbiturates. Now, we go to another set under your PNS, your CNS, sorry for that. So under CNS, you can also have your antipsychotic drugs. One of them is your phenothiazines, just to clarify. Pagdating po talaga sa general structure ng inyong antipsychotics, hanggang dito lang siya, mga anak. Ayan. Cut off na yan dyan. Kasi ito na ay part ng R group. Your phenothiazine kasi is like a basis prototype under your antipsychotics. In particular, may specific generation siya naka-under. So kung talagang pinaka-main general structure talaga ng ating antipsychotics, hanggang dito lang po talaga siya sa may isang alkyl group here tapos R na kayo in such cases. Ang importante na hindi pwedeng mawala pagdating dito is of course this one right here. Yung tertiary amine na yan. So the tertiary amine is actually essential for the antipsychotic activity of your drug. So, pwede kayong mag-substitute ng propylpiperazine sa N10. So, ito yung nandito yon, yung R group na naglalagay kayo ng propylpiperazine at N10. So, there could be a increase in potency or increase as well on your dopamine 2 blockade. Pwede rin tayo magkaroon ng substitution pagdating sa beta ng C here. Yan, magkakaroon din kayo ng greater effect ng antipsychotic activity. Another is that in terms of this one right here, yung X natin dito, pwede nyo pong palitan yan ng EWG. Again, you have your electron withdrawing groups. So, pag naglagay kayo ng electron withdrawing groups yan, similar lang yan sa mga previous ones, mag-i-increase na potency kasi there is an increase in the number of your electrons. So, that can also be. Another thing is that you have to remember, especially sa case dito. Ito, right here. Yung N nyo na yan, again, pwede po tayong maglagay dyan ng cascade ng alkyl group. So in this case right here, if you are to put a nitrogen ring side chain, usual, ang meron tayo ay 3. Bawasan natin yan. Usual is for you to have 3 carbons. What do I mean by that? This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So yung meron po kayong nakapagitna na 3 carbons muna. Bakit? Ano po ang anong rationale behind? What is the essential thing about that? Is that ito po ay magbibigay ng antipsychotic activity. Always remember that. At least 3 carbons dapat ang pagitan bago yung susunod na nitrogen unit. So yun ang interval nila ng nitrogen to nitrogen. At least 3. Antipsychotic activity pa rin ang meron. But the moment that you will have only 2 carbons, naging dalawa, binawasan nyo ng isa. Halimbawa natin yan. So in such case, hindi na po antipsychotic activity mga anak ang lalabas. You will have your antihistamine activity or your anticholinergic activity instead. Again po, pag naging 2 carbons ang interval nyo, that would be antihistamine or anticholinergic activity instead of your antipsychotic activity. So that would be the case under your antipsychotics. So basically here as well, meron din po silang specific generation. So meron din tayong henerasyon ng inyong antipsychotics. You have 2 main generations, basically your first and your second gen. So when you say first gen, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito is your typical or your traditional antipsychotics. Again, those are your typical or your traditional antipsychotics. Wait lang ha. Okay. So, going back, so doon sa typical or your traditional, there are 3 subclasses pa dyan. And one of the subclass is the thing that you have on front of you right now, your phenothiazine. So phenothiazine is one of the main subclass under your first gen. Meron pa yang further classes ang inyong phenothiazine. It's either aliphatic, pwede pong aliphatic, pwede rin siyang piperazine ang meron, or also piperidine. Again, you have your aliphatic, piperazine, piperidine. So, Z and D. Pag aliphatic, usually, ang suffix niyan, yung last po dun sa pangalan is promazine. Ang nasa last or suffix ng kanyang pangalan. That is for aliphatic phenothiazines. Pag piperazine naman ang meron, usually, phenazine, yung nandun sa dulo, or kung hindi phenazine, pyrazine. Ayan. So, those are the usual ones. Pagdating naman kay piperazine. Pagdating kay piperidine naman, usually, ridazine ang meron. Again, ang usual po natin, pagdating naman kay piperidine is ridazine yung nasa dulo. For example, yung mga thioridazine. So, yun yung isa sa mga well-known under that part. So, another subclass bukod kay phenothiazines is your thioxanthines. Again, your thioxanthines is another subclass under your first generation. So, usually, Tixin yung nasa dulo ng kanilang pangalan. Yan is spelling. And also, last but not the least, under your antipsychotics is this one right here, your butyrofenones. So, sa butyrofenones po natin, ang usual nilang nasa dulo is peridone. Yan, ang usual nilang nasa dulo, pagdating dyan is your peridone. So as you can see, ayan naman na rin yung pinaka-substitution niya. So if you were to substitute X right here, usually electron donating groups, tataas yung potency. This one right here. Pwede mo rin i-change yung length ng propyl chain. Ito yon. Pwede mo i-replace yung keto oxygen natin into S-carbon. So this is still isosteric replacement. Or kung OH ang lalagay mo, magdi-decrease naman ang potency. And then this fer Y right here can be replaced with your N-piperazine structures. So yun ang meron tayo pagdating kay butyrophenols. Now we go with your antihistamines. So far, ayos pa po ba kayo? Are you still there? Medyo masakit na ba ang ulo? Ano bang nangyayari na? Okay pa ba? Buhay pa ba? Parang wala na akong estudyante. Ano nang nangyayari sa inyo mga anak? Yung iba, okay pa. Sige, maraming salamat po. Now, let's just continue first. Anyways, I'll be giving you a break later on. Tapusin ko lang tong part na to. So, we'll have a bladder break. So, for antihistamines, please do remember, pagdating sa PICOL natin mga anak, nag-under ng otacoids. Wait lang. Let me just check the... Ayan. Otacoids. Nag-under po sa tinatawag nating otacoids ang inyong histamines. When we are talking about otacoids, ang pinag-uusapan po natin dito are your endogenous compounds. When we say endogenous, they are basically produced within your body. And in particular, otacoids are your local hormones na tinatawag natin. So this is different from the usual hormones na systemic ang effect. What do I mean by that? Yung mga systemic effect po na hormones natin, yun yung tinatawag yung mga endocrine hormones. So yun yung mga usual na mga testosterone, estrogen. So yun yung mga endocrine hormones na yun. So basically from the endocrine system nanggagaling. But in the case of your otacoids, dahil sila ay local hormones, kung saan po sila ni-release, doon lang din ang kanilang effect. So basically, the effect on their otacoids are localized. So specific part lang within the body. Kaya nga mapapansin nyo, pag kayo ay nagkakaroon ng allergic reaction, for example, usual yan in a specific part of your body. So dun mo lang makikita yung pinaka-reaction. Unless na lang systemic allergic reaction ang meron. So, yun ang main difference nila. And bukod po sa histamine, andyan po yung tropang besh. So, si tropang besh actually is the examples under otacoids. B is actually your bradykinin. E is for your eicosanoids. S is for serotonin. And H is for histamine. So, yun yung tropang besh. So, in this case, ang focus lang naman natin is, of course, your histamine lang. So, in the case of your histamine, basically, ayun, in terms of its biosynthesis, sa location pa lang ha, location ng inyong histamine, pwede nyo pong makita yan sa inyong effector cells. So, yung mga usual nating effector cells, kung matatandaan nyo pa yan sa prelims natin, you have there your mast cells and your basophils. Sila yung responsible for the release of histamine for allergic reaction. Yun yung two na common na effector cells natin. Again, that is mast cells and your basophils. Another part or location na pwede nyo makita ang inyong histamine is of course your CNS and also your stomach. Yun ang mga usual cases natin or usual locations ng inyong histamine. And please do remember that there are 3 different receptors for histamine. So doon magbabase yung effect ng inyong antihistamine. Doon sa tatlong histamine receptors natin. You have your H1 receptor, your H2 receptor, and your H3 receptor. And because we are talking about the CNS right here, our under H1 receptor, usually sa CNS, sa brain, dyan nagkakaroon ng wakefulness, dyan nagiging alert. Yun ang pwedeng ibigay na effect ng inyong histamine. So bukod sa mga vasodilation, contraction, so alertness is being given by your histamine on the CNS. That is H1. Pagdating sa H2 natin, usually ito yung makikita nyo sa stomach. So pagdating sa HCl release natin sa stomach, H2 ang responsable dyan. Another thing is in terms of the very common allergic reactions that we have, pag nagkaroon ng release ng histamine from your mast cells and your basophils, that is still according to your H2. Meron siyang connection doon sa H2. Pagdating sa H3, H3 is still CNS, yun nga lang po, presynaptic. Okay, again, CNS, synaptic na pagdating kay H3. So usual here, kung ito naman ay stimulate nyo na receptor, ang nangyayari mas further tayong nagre-release ng inyong histamine. So of course, if you have an antihistamine, you will basically be involved in terms of these activities ng inyong histamine sa inyong receptor. And meron na nga kayo H1 receptor antago, H2 receptor antago, and your H3, pero usual kasi hindi na masyadong tinitake note yung H3 po natin. So, ito yung mga yan. Paki-take note na lang din, guys, pagdating kay histamine. Usual ito pagdating sa PICOL, ano? Your histamine po has a clinical usefulness before. Ngayon kasi obsolete na yung gamit ng inyong histamine, which is actually under your pulmonary challenge test. So yung pulmonary challenge test na yan ay ginagamit natin for the diagnosis of bronchial asthma. So yun ang ginagawa nila doon, nagbibigay sila ng histamine para i-check kung may bronchial asthma ba yung pasyente or wala. But nowadays, hindi na po natin ginagamit yung part na yan kasi mas maraming nagiging adverse effect pag ibibigay mo yung histamine mismo. So going back now to the antagonistic effects naman with your antihistamine, against your histamine itself, you have your H1 antagonist with different generations. Dalawa ang generations nila nito, your first gen and your second generation. So if we are talking about your first generation, usually ito po yung mga nakakaantok na generation natin ng antihistamines. So ano po ba yung mga nakakaantok na yan? Diyan yung mga ethanolamines such as your diphenhydramine, propylamines, and so on and so forth. So meron pa silang subclasses dyan. Two of them is already on your screens. Number one is your ethanolamines. So ito po sa lahat ng inyong first generation is ang pinaka nakakantok. So this is your most sedating but also the most efficacious. So, most effective naman still siya kahit siya ang pinaka-nakakaantok. Kasi in the case of your antihistamines, the more na nakakaantok yung antihistamine nyo, the more effective it is. So, di ba H1 nga, we're pertaining to your CNS, which is your wakefulness, kung magbibigay kayo ng histamine. So, kung tatanggalin nyo yung wakefulness, yung pagiging alert na isang tao, then tatanggalin nyo yung histamine content, doon pumapasok ang ating sedative effect ng inyong antihistamines. So in such cases, you have their examples such as your clemastine or carbinoxamine, your diphenhydramine. Meron din tayo your doxylamine, that's also under your ethanolamines. So, anong meron pa? Please do take note, your diphenhydramine. I'm not sure kung may gumagamit po sa inyo dito ng Benadryl. So Benadryl is actually a branding of your diphenhydramine. And your diphenhydramine po is actually a DOC for your acute dystonic crisis. Acute dystonic crisis. So yung acute dystonic crisis po natin, ang pasyenteng merong ganitong sakit ay merong dystonia. So usually ang dystonia ay nakikita nyo po sa EPS. So mas ma-check out yun pagdating kay PICOL. Ano pang meron doon? Usually ang makikita nyo may twisting po ng leeg. Wait lang mga anak ha. Wait for a while. Okay, sorry for the short delay. May ganap lang. Anyways, again, pagdating po sa dystonia, ang usual na nakikita natin sa pasyente is parang twisted yung leeg nila. So there is this twisting of their necks. That is dystonia right there. So if you want to put an antidote regarding that, so yung pinaka-DOC drug of choice natin for that, that is your diphenhydramine. Another is pagdating kay doxylamine, yung nabanggit ko earlier, nakasama sa examples. Doxylamine in the brand name of Unisome. There is spelling ng Unisome. Wala siyang E sa dulo. That is the brand name of doxylamine. Ginagamit po silang sleeping aid. Again, ginagamit po silang sleeping aid. So for insomniacs, ayan, ginagamit po nila yung mga ganitong klaseng gamot. Kaya nga I'm not sure if you are one of those people na halimbawa hindi nakakatulog, bumibili po ng antihistamine para gamitin as pampatulog. They are looking out for or practically ang hinahabol lang nila dun is the side effect. There are also cases wherein some doctors do prescribe, especially diphenhydramine, as a sleeping agent. So, meron pong ganong cases. But, do take note mga anak, your diphenhydramine at a certain milligram, I think that was 50 and 25 kasi sila dyan. Sa 50 milligrams po ng dipen, that is already RX drug. So, kailangan nyo na po ng reseta sa ganun, So, ang alam ko sa 25, hindi. Para lang siyang sa ibuprofen and mefenamic. Mefenamic at 500 is a RX drug. Yun nga lang sa atin kasi dito sa Pinas ay hindi natin ginagawa yung gano'n. And your ibuprofen actually as well, in terms of 400 milligrams, should also be part of your RX. Hindi ko lang alam kung nagkaroon na ng reformation pagdating doon sa OTC management ng inyong ibuprofen. So that is the case of your ethanolamines. So you also have your propylamines right there. So ayun na yung mga few examples of your propylamines. You also have here, ayan, ethylene diamines. So meron din tayo niyan. So, meron din po kayo ng phenothiazine. So, yun yung kanina kong sinabi sa inyong phenothiazines, di ba? As long as you already have a 2-carbon interval na lang sa inyong next nitro element, basically antihistamine or anticholinergic activity na yung ibibigay niya, not antipsychotic activity. So, one of the main examples there is your promethazine, your trimeprazine, and your metdilazine. So, ang ano lang natin dyan, my dears, is your promethazine in particular. Meron po tayong kilalang brand dyan. We have your Phenergan. So, I'm not sure kung narinig niyo na siya. So, Phenergan is one of the well-known brands under your promethazine. So, ginagamit din po si promethazine as a anesthetic adjunct. So, ginagamit po siya ng mga pre-operative sedation sa mga surgeries. So, that is another use of your promethazine. So, for piperazines naman so your hydroxyzine, meron din tayong another brand name na kilala dyan. Kung naririnig nyo na po si Iterax, ayan, that is actually a popular brand under your hydroxyzine, your Iterax. And please do remember that your hydroxyzine is actually a prodrug. Again po, prodrug po si hydroxyzine. So, if you are to actually convert hydroxyzine, ang lalabas dyan na compound, mga anak, is your cetirizine. So, cetirizine is actually from or derived from your hydroxyzine. So, yun ang lalabas na active compound ng hydroxyzine nyo, si cetirizine. So, either piperazine compounds is, of course, very well known nyo na yon, yung inyong Bonamine, yung inyong Dizitab, so yung mga meclizines po natin. So, for motion sickness, they are under your piperazines as well. So, meron din kayong dibenzocycloheptanes, ayun ang examples, and your phthalosinones, so yung azelastine. So, medyo bago na actually yung part ng azelastine. Meron pa akong i-add sa inyong specific group, kasi ito ay usually din lumalabas sa board exam, which is known as your alkylamines na group. Ayan. Your subgroup alkylamines, is actually correlated naman with your cold medications. So yung usual nyo pong nakikita sa mga Newsep, mga BioFlu, mga Naphthrin, yung mga nakalagay dyan na chlorpheniramine, brompheniramine, o yung mga may pamalit, malit, and so on. Yun po ay under ng alkylamines. So mali pala yung spelling ko. Alkylamines with K po. Ayan. So alkylamines. So they are again under your alkylamines H1 antagonist. So yung pang cold medications natin. So in terms of your second gen, so we're done with your first generation H1 antagonist. So sa second generation naman, you have there your piperazines and your piperidines. So please do take note that your piperazines, which you have their cetirizine and levocetirizine, mas less sedating sila kaysa kay first generation. So as you can see, cetirizine again is just derived from a first gen H1 antagonist, which is your hydroxyzine. So kung gusto mong medyo mas less ang sedating effect, pwede na yung mga cetirizine and levocetirizine. Kaya wag po tayong magtataka kahit sabihin po nila na mas okay si cetirizine at hindi ka aantukin, meron pa rin pong point wherein, kaya nga yung iba, sabi nila, ay ayoko niyang cetirizine, inaantok pa rin ako dyan. So meron pa rin po siyang sedative effect kahit paano. That is with your cetirizine. But if you are looking out for your true non-sedating na H1 antagonist, dun kayo kay piperidines. So yung mga piperidines nyo po, your fexofenadine, yung mga astemizole nyo na yan, loratadine, desloratadine, those are your true non-sedating. So, yan talaga ang mayroon sa kanila. Wala talaga silang makukuhang kaantukan man lang dyan. So, if you are trying to do something, if you're trying to drive, for example, or meron kang work na kailangan mentally alert ka, it's actually more advantageous. It's more na pinapagamit yung piperidine type ng inyong H1 antagonists. So, that is for H1. Now we go with your H2 antagonist. So again, pagdating sa H2, nandito na yung pagdating sa inyong HCl release. So sa stomach, or either pwede din naman yung sa inyong effector cells. So yung sa mga allergic reactions as well. So ang usual casing po natin dito is that in terms of your H2 blockers, ito yung mga tidin yung dulo. So as you can see, meron kayo example dyan, cimetidine. Ayan. Famotidine, mga yon, ranitidine. So, tingin ka naman na naririnig nyo naman yung mga yan. So, those are examples under your H2 blockers. And please do take note that yung cimetidine po na hinighlight ko, that is the prototype under your H2 antagonists. Again po, yan ang ating prototype under your H2 antagonists. So, yun po ang least potent among your H2 antagonist. Ang most potent natin sa H2 antagonist is your famotidine. Again, famotidine is the most potent, excuse me, among your H2 blockers or antagonists. Another thing, hopefully nare-remember nyo, na yung cimetidine is also part of your enzyme inhibitors. Again po, no? Isa pong enzyme inhibitor ang inyong cimetidine. So basically, if you are to give cimetidine with another drug, there is a high chance na magkaroon ng increased toxicity yung drug na kasama ng inyong cimetidine. Ano pang meron kay cimetidine? This is actually anti-androgenic na drug, ang inyong cimetidine. So if it is anti-androgenic, so bababa yung testosterone levels, usually ang nangyayari, nagkakaroon po ng gynecomastia, so lumalaki, nagkakaroon ng man boobs, nagkakaroon ng loss of libido, nagkakaroon din ng infertility. So those are side effects of your cimetidine. Okay. So opioid analgesics. So I think most of you are medyo Na-stress out na, sige, take some time muna to have a bladder break. I think 10 minutes is enough for a bladder break. We'll resume by 11:03. Ay, 12 na. 12:03. Pwede na rin po kayong kumuha ng lunch while you're at it para kumakain kayo habang nag-lesson. Okay, so I hope everyone's done with your bladder break. And if you're eating your lunch, it's okay to continue doing so habang nakikinig po doon sa ating lecture. Now, for opioid analgesics, actually, we're already close enough naman to finish already for this certain PowerPoint. So you have here the main structure of your morphine, wherein please do remember that morphine is the prototype natin under your opioid analgesics. So as you can see, marami siyang cyclic rings kasi in the case of the main characteristics of your morphine in particular sa kanyang structure, there are actually 5 fused rings right there. And that 5 fused rings, of course, is A, B, C, D, and E. So in my case lang, ba't ako naglagay ng ganyan dyan? Anong ginawa ko? Pinagpalit ko lang muna yung lettering kasi in a few references, actually in the reference that I also utilize, so ang E po is yung nandito sa part na to and your D is yung dito right here. But kaya naman pagbalik ta rin yan as long as you are familiar pagdating sa mga substitutions under your opioid analgesics, there is no problem with that. So your A is your phenolic ring. Ayan. B is a cyclohexene ring. C is a, excuse me, C is a cyclohexanol ring. So meron ka N-methyl piperidine ring as well. And your partially saturated furan ring for letter E. So in this case, isa-isahin lang muna natin. Let's start off first on the main characteristics bukod dun sa sinabi ko kanina na 5 fused ring ang inyong opioid analgesics. So another common characteristic between your opioid analgesics is that usually there is this pronounced T shape na makikita pagdating sa ring, which is usually this one right here. So di ko alam kung makikita niyo yung T shape niya dyan. Basta meron siyang pronounced T shape right there. So usually this is because of your tertiary amine that as you can see right here, meron kayong N dyan. That is the tertiary amine right there. Kaya nga kayo merong pronounced na T shape dyan sa inyong opioid analgesic. So in terms of its pharmacophore, there are actually two main responsible pagdating sa kanyang MOA. So unang-una dyan is your ring A and also this ring here, yung ring E nyo. So binago ko yung letter ng ring na yan, that's ring E, which is basically concerning your tertiary amine. So yung ring A nyo, again, that is a phenolic ring. And of course, if it is a phenol, that is basically a aromatic ring as well. So an aromatic ring, a phenol ring, all of them are on ring A, and a tertiary amine, which is most likely seen on this ring right here, which is ring letter E na binago ko. So any changes among those rings, bababa po ang activity ng inyong opioid analgesic. So, hindi natin talaga usually tinatanggal yung mga rings na yan. So, ang pwede lang natin usually i-modify is your B, C, and D na rings. So, how do you actually modify this one right here? Let's clear everything first. So, in the usual count natin ng inyong opioid analgesic, ang start natin is right here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, sorry, 5 carbon, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right here. Ayan, yun ang usual count po natin pagdating sa inyong opioid analgesic. And one of the very important ones is usually seen here, this position 3 right here. Makikita nyo may hydroxyl kayo dyan. Ito. Ayan. So yung hydroxyl nyo dyan can actually be substituted or additional. Pwede kayo mag-add dyan ng ethyl group or a methyl group. So in such case, pag yun naman dinagdag nyo, bababa po yung activity ng inyong drug. So for example, if you just want to make it less potent para mas less ang toxicity, for example, you can put a ethyl or a methyl compound right there at your position 3. There can also be a removal of this one right here at position 6. This is 6 right here. Yung inyong OH sa part na yan. So this, pag nagkaroon kayo ng removal here, or either nagkaroon kayo ng alkene group, ito ditong alkene group na yan, sa 7 and 8. If you were to remove them, the activity retains. Again, the activity retains if you were to remove this OH right here at position 6 or this alkene part right here at 7 and 8. Pag ang ni-remove nyo is this one here, yung dapat na letter E natin dyan, of course, bababa ang activity natin kasi that is part of your pharmacophore. Pagdating naman sa removal ng ring D, ito na yung naging ring D natin right here. Pag ito po ni-remove, magkakaroon po lang po tayo ng retention of activity. And please do take note, we have drugs or a certain class of opioid analgesics under this one right here, kung ring D ang nawawala. So you have what you call your morphinins. This is the spelling of morphinins. Ayan. Your morphinins, they are usually more potent, mas potent po sila, at mas mahaba po ang kanilang duration of action kaysa kay morphine. So, itong mga morphinins natin. Example, drugs or compounds under your morphinins are your levorphanol and your levolorphan. So those are examples under your morphinins. Again, pag ito po ay tinanggal nyo, dapat letter D na to ha, na fustrate. So, morphinins ang lalabas. In the case naman, halimbawa, extend natin yung tatanggalin natin. Itong D, pati itong C, tanggal yan. Itong dalawa na yan, tatanggalin natin. Meron din tayong tawag dyan, still retained ang activity. This is what you call your benzomorphan. So, your benzomorphans. So, mga benzomorphans po natin, those are derivatives under your morphines na wala na pong cyclic D and C. Again, activity is still retained in such cases. Ang usual natin na ending ng mga yan, yung zosine po ang end. May zosine sila sa end. So, for example, yung metazosine, your pentosine. So, those are examples under your benzomorphans. Pag further pa natin, ginawa ang tanggal-tanggal ng ring. So, tanggalin natin yung isa pang pwedeng tanggalin na wala sa pharmacophore. B. So, tinanggal mo yung B, tinanggal mo yung D, tinanggal mo yung C. Anong lalabas? We have there your 4-phenyl piperidines. Excuse me. Again, you have there your 4-phenyl piperidines. Ang lalabas, pag ni-remove mo, B, C, and D. Is the activity still retained? Yes, activity is still retained. Kasi again, hindi naman po yung pharmacophore yung ating ginalaw. So in such case, anong mga very well-known example here, your fentanyl. So fentanyl is actually the prototype under your 4-phenyl piperidines. Meron din kayo, no, Kemifentanil. Ayan. It has a short duration of action na type of 4-phenylpiperidine. So, the rest of them, basta may fentanyl naman sa dulo. Ayan. So, they are under 4-phenylpiperidines. Ano pang meron pagdating sa mga 4-phenylpiperidines? Usual characteristic nila mga anak is that they are more flexible na compound. So, mas madali po silang mag-bind with your mu receptors. So, yun ang kayang gawin ng inyong mga 4-phenylpiperidines. They are more flexible, so they can actually bind more with your mu receptors. So others na very specified already in terms of the modification. So there can be also the modification under your 3,6 OH groups. Ito yung kanina nasabi ko. So pagdating sa OH na to, so pwede ka magkaroon ng codeine right there pag maglalagay ka ng CH3 methyl. Yun nga lang, mas mababa ang activity by 15%. Pag dito ka naman, heterocodeine dito sa part na yan. So mas increase naman siya by 6-fold. Pag oxidation ng OH, basically ito yung sa double bond na nabanggit ko kanina earlier. So there may be decrease of activity by about 37%. Kung without naman yan, increased activity naman yan. So that is the case for this one. So ito din yung binanggit ko earlier around, mas specific lang siya in this part. So you also have here your 6-deoxymorphine. So pagtatanggal ka lang ng oxygen dyan, sa double bond nyo. So 10-fold increase in activity. You can also have here acetylation naman pagdating sa 3 and 6 OH nyo, which will cause you or give you your heroin. So carboxylic acids ang ilalagay. So ether linkage, pwede din open up yan. So nagkakaroon kayo 90% reduced activity. So for the modification of your nitrogen part, yung sa ating tertiary amine, so pag each naglagay ka 75% reduction ng activity, mas bumababa din yung chances natin for addiction. Pag phenethyl substituent, ang ilalagay niya naman 14-fold increase in activity. Pag quaternary, NH4 ammonia derivative, wala tayong analgesic effect. Curare-like activity, if you could still remember your curares, mga tubocurarine and all. So most likely, ANS sila under na effect, mga muscle relaxants ang kakalabasan. So for bulky alkyl group substituent naman, mas nagiging narcotic antagonist siya, addictive na antagonists. So pwede din regarding the nuclear ring, pwede nyo rin i-open up. Ito yung nuclear ring, tinutukoy niya. So, tanggalin nyo yung ester binding or ether binding linkage dyan sa inyong ring na basing here, it's letter E. It is usually letter D as well. So, 90% reduced activity ang pwedeng mangyari. So that is for opioid analgesics. So last for this PowerPoint is actually under your local anesthetics. So when we say or when we are talking about local anesthetics, ito yung naka-localized yung anesthetic effect. So usually, for example, nakalagay na dyan your lidocaine and your procaine. So lidocaine in particular is actually ginagamit natin to for local anesthesia for tooth extraction. So kung may nagpatanggal na po ng ngipin dito, most likely yung pampamadhid nyo na ginamit doon ay isang lidocaine. So other examples actually under this one right here is that you have your inhalational anesthetics. Though hindi ko na siya nailagay dyan, ayan, naka-end naman na siya dyan. So you have their inhalational anesthetics as well. So from the term itself, inhalational, di ba? Siyempre, to be inhaled type na anesthetic. So it can be localized in your lungs, but sometimes meron din po sila mga systemic effects. So in the case of your inhalational anesthetics, please do remember na ang usual sa kanila ay mga halogenated na sila na hydrocarbon. anesthesias. Anong meron sa inyong inhalational? They are usually halogenated hydrocarbons. So, yung halogenation part na yon, kaya nga po sila nagiging volatile, kaya nga sila nagiging gaseous ang state, is because of that halogenated or halogenation process which is involved on your inhalational anesthesia.